And you know what to do. Please welcome Andy Black. Nope, up.
Hi.
There, yes.
Now everyone stand up again. I'm just kidding. Please don't. I'm just kidding. No, thank you. I tried a couple things. I walked in backwards. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool, right? Thank you. Stand up again. Please don't.
Nope.
I'm only going to ask you to stand up 4 more times, but you won't know when.
Okay.
Let's do a Q&A.
Let's do one. I have a question right off the bat, then we'll get to the audience. I got to ask, was there a certain record or a certain performer that really drew you into being a musician?
When I was a real little kid, like most people, you listen to music that your parents listen to or the things that are in your house, you know. And the first thing I found, like a lot of young kids who were into comic books and other things like that, I found Kiss. So I found my dad's Kiss trading cards from the 70s. And being that I was heavily into comic books, I just saw them as comic book characters. So that was kind of my first introduction to rock music. And then through that, found a bunch of other stuff and kind of went the route of finding my own bands as you do when you're a teenager. But my first introduction to rock music was through kind of the pageantry and the larger-than-lifeness of Kiss.
Was there a certain record that really sticks with you to this day?
My favorite record
Yes.
of all time, and the thing I am the most, I guess, inspired by in terms of writing, is a latter-era Bruce Springsteen record called Magic. It's my favorite album of all time.
Damn.
And I know it's all of yours, too. You all say, 2007 Bruce Springsteen is the reason why I'm here.
Surprise, but a nice surprise.
Yeah.
You guys got questions? Right down front.
With the Andy Black project, what was your favorite song to work on or perform?
I would say one of the most exciting things, the first record I did, a song called Louder Than Your Love, which Gerard Way, I co-wrote it with Gerard Way from My Chem, and he sings on the song, he sings with me in the chorus, and then the Mikey from My Chem played bass on the song. So as a fan of the band, it was really exciting to have essentially like a small-scale My Chemical Romance reunion in the studio, because at the time they had broken up, so it was a very cool experience. And then the other song on that record that I wrote with Patrick Stump from Fall Out Boy is We Don't Have to Dance, which a lot of people like that song, but it was just, I had never worked with outside artists like that, you know, because in the band we've always been really just writing everything together. So when I did the first solo record, the idea of being able to open up and work with heroes of mine or other people that inspired me, that was really exciting. So I've always, like, really, I suppose, had a great deal of, you know, positive memories for making that record.
Right over here.
Thank you. So I spent a lot of money at Hot Topic. In fact, some of the fans, we all met over there while you were on break. But how did you get...
Hi.
How were you able to get on all their promotional materials? Do you have some sort of connection with them?
With Hot Topic?
Yeah, you're on their flyers and their postcards now.
I'm like an old man emo. Yeah. I'm the elder statesman. No, you know, one of the first things, actually, I think someone's wearing it. There's somebody in here. I saw the shirt earlier. No, not that one. I was wrong. I'm sorry for pointing. Rude to point. That was a reference to a post-credit scene in Into the Spider-Verse, so that's a deep cut for you. Anyway, so there was, essentially what happened was early in our career, it was kind of the peak of Hot Topic kind of coming up, and they were taking in a lot of young bands and stuff, and we were on a very small independent label that was run out of Cleveland called Standby Records. They didn't really, you know, they were nice enough, but they didn't really have the funds to push us on a large level. And so it just so happened that we were able to get one shirt into regional stores in Hot Topic, and it sold really, really well. And then they put us nationally, and that's really, realistically, how people started seeing the aesthetic of the band and finding, what the hell is this thing? It was a picture of me, white face with the old school makeup. And that was really the linchpin for people kind of finding out about this band and then going and getting our record. So this was 2009, 2010. And since then, we've always had a really great working relationship with them, and they've been huge supporters of us. You know, they sponsored one of our first tours and have always been really kind and put the merchandise in the stores. And, you know, I always give them shit a little bit because when I was a teenager, I applied to work at Hot Topic and they didn't hire me. So, yeah. No, so I as far as like me being involved with stuff, I've just been very fortunate that they've allowed me to continue to be involved in the brand, and it's something that means a lot to me because as a kid, there were very few places. I grew up in Cincinnati. There were very few places that a little kid that wore black nail polish and had dyed black hair could go and feel comfortable, and not deal with other people's shit. And so, like a lot of kids who kind of grew up in my era, for younger people now, when I was a younger kid, we would just go to the mall for a whole day. There was nothing to fucking do. We didn't have phones or anything, so we wouldn't even have money. We would just go to the mall, and you'd walk around, and you would end up in Hot Topic because it was kind of like the mecca or the place that you could go and feel comfortable. So anyway, I'm rambling, but I always do, exclusively, in the only way that I talk. But that is the reason. It's just we've been fortunate to kind of build a relationship there and maintain that over the years.
And a question right down here in front also.
Hi, Andy again.
Hi.
So, are you planning on releasing any more works under Andy Black?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not, it's not something that I don't want to do. It's just we've been working so hard with Black Veil material over the last couple of years that I haven't really had the time to sit and think about what I'd want to do with another solo record. But I wrote a song. I actually was telling somebody this earlier. I wrote a song the other day, and it was the first time in years that new material that I was writing, as I was writing it, I sort of realized that it wasn't a Black Veil song, that maybe it was a solo song. So I guess once I have 12 of those, then you'll hear more.
Question right down here.
How long have you known everyone in your band?
How long have I known everyone in my band? Well, Lonnie I've known for like 3 years. No. We started in... I started when I was a teenager, and then I met all of the members who are currently in the band now around 2009. So, however long that is. I dropped out of high school. I don't know.
A question in the back.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Here I am. Any chance of getting We Don't Need to Understand on an album? And if that question sucks, favorite Batman villain?
It doesn't suck, and I'll answer both. The reason that They Don't Need to Understand is not available commercially is because it actually wasn't theoretically allowed. So what happened was I had written a bunch of songs with producer John Feldman, who did Wretched and Divine with us and a few other records. And I was under contract with Universal at the time, and I said, hey, we wrote these songs, and they don't really sound like Black Veil at all. I'd really like to just release them in some capacity. And I think I could do a really cool record that doesn't sound like Black Veil. And Black Veil had been touring really consistently, and we were going to take a little bit of a break. So we played the songs for the label, and they said, we have no interest in this at all. And so I said, fuck that. And so what we did, kind of bringing Hot Topic back, was one of the songs that I felt was really strong was They Don't Need to Understand. And so basically, we independently financed a cheaply made music video and said, we went to Hot Topic and said, we're going to make merchandise. Do you guys want to put this in the store? And we can't release this commercially because by contract, I couldn't put it onto iTunes at the time or anything like that because it has to go through Universal. So, but if you release something just as a music video, you can it's a loophole there. So we released the music video and put merchandise in Hot Topic, and then we were lucky that Hot Topic would actually play the song in the stores and play the video on the video screens in the stores, and that was our way of releasing it. But I actually couldn't release it as its own standalone song. And I still can't because theoretically that demo is owned by Universal, just like if you follow me on Instagram, recently I posted a bunch of old demos from that era, and people were like, oh, I wish you would release all this. And the truth is I can't. Unfortunately, the politics of the way record labels work is that and it's understandable, when you're signed to that company, they own your work while you're there. That's how it works. I'm not trying to criticize the basis of the music industry, but I don't own the masters for those songs that I wrote and recorded because I was under contract at the time. So that is why that is not out there that way. So the only way, you can rip it off of YouTube if you want. It doesn't bother me. And then to answer your second question, my favorite Batman villain, you don't want to say the Joker because then you're like, I'm the Joker guy. But come on. You're not really going to do better than that. Yeah. But what if I said no after all that? No, the Joker.
Question right down here.
He really doesn't want you to hold the microphone.
From your standpoint, what would you say is aside from the sound, like the difference between Black Veil's music from like 2000? When did Set the World on Fire come out? I'm sorry.
2011.
Okay, I should know this. The difference between from how Black Veil sounded back then versus how it sounds, how you all sound nowadays, just with that, with how the band's evolved over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the key word, right? There's an evolution. I can also understand when people say, because I'm the same way with bands I listen to, where you go, oh, I like the old stuff better, or why don't you write songs like that anymore? And the truth is that as an artist, you're writing from the perspective of what you're experiencing. And when I was 19, 20 years old writing those songs, my life was very different than it is now. And my experiences were different, and my interests were different. Not entirely. I'm still the same person in my heart, but I was dealing with a very different reality. So my artistic perspective was very different. And so a lot of that factors into what you're writing. Now, musically, you can go, let's sit down and write a song that feels like it's the core of the band. And a couple years ago, we did that. We had a song called The Vengeance and Saints of the Blood that felt very kind of old school Black Veil. And we intend to continue to do that. There's a song that we'll be releasing pretty soon that feels very old school Black Veil when we listen to it. But we're never going to be the band that we were back then, just like you're not going to be the person that you were when you were younger or whatever in your life. So I think it's all about finding the merit in the evolution of an artist and seeing the things about their evolutionary change that maybe mirror you as a listener, the things that you've grown with them. And you, by the way, can still go listen to the old stuff. It still exists, you know. So again, I understand, because my favorite bands, I don't want to say guilty of it, but I certainly go like, man, what the fuck are they doing now? Like, you know, and I understand when people will say stuff to us about, why don't you do this, or why don't you scream more on the records, whatever it is. I understand all that because I am a fan myself. But I also know that when I'm sitting down to write from my perspective, I would feel like it would be pandering or presuming that I understand what you like a little bit too much to sit down and go, I'm going to write a song that feels like when I was 20. You know what I mean? Because it's just disingenuous. So the hope is that the evolution of the art comes naturally, and that you as a listener feel like, oh, I can see where they were going for this 10-year period, or I can see where the transitions of the band happen. Thank you, me too.
Let's pad back over to this side of the room. Right over here. Yeah. Mhm.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, wow, I sound weird on this.
Me too, it's a weird mic.
Of all the songs that you've worked on, what do you think has been the best, in your opinion, outcome-wise? Like, which one are you the most proud of?
I always say this, and I think it's still true. There's a song on Wretched and Divine called Lost It All that... Thank you. Thank you. It took a long time to do that song. Pretty much the whole length of the album. We started it very early in the process, and it was rough. Because it's such a complicated song, and there's so many parts, and the vocals do so many different things, and there's all the orchestral pieces that are in it. I would be driving back and forth from the studio daily and listening to various stages of the demos of it and trying to figure out where it was going to go. And there were times where, for a long time, if you had heard it, you would think it sucks, objectively, because it didn't sound like what it was going to. But I, in my mind, felt like from my perspective as part of the band, I knew where I wanted it to go. And we were able to, over time, shape it into a song that I feel like is a rare occurrence for any artistic person, where you feel like you can look at something that you did and go, oh, I fucking nailed that. When I look at that song, I feel like it's exactly what we wanted it to be, and it just took all this time to get there. Thank you.
When you write, do you do the music first, then the lyrics, or the lyrics, then the music?
It's always different. Generally speaking, because we're a very guitar-first band, it's going to be a riff first. You know, mostly in the history of the band, it is Jake and Jinx have a pretty complete structure, and my two guitar players have a pretty complete structure for what they think the song is. they'll play it for me, they'll play it for Cece. We'll all listen to something, that we make changes from there. Melodies go on it, lyrics go on it. As far as lyrics go, the one thing that is always true is I am not a collaborative lyricist, admittedly. I struggle, just like I struggled in school. I don't really know. I get nervous in a situation where I'm supposed to come up with an idea right now. And the problem with songwriting is, in terms of collaborative songwriting, a lot of it can feel like school if you're somebody who has really bad anxiety, because you're in a room full of other people and you're all, in the movie version of this event, everybody's sitting around and going, what rhymes with green? And they go, fuck yeah, that's it. And they're all high-fiving. But in reality, if you're somebody like me, who I get very anxious and I have a little a feeling of tenseness in the idea of, I have to say something genius right now and I have to come up with this. What I found early in my career was, if I just go away and I'm totally alone, everything that I think of is so much easier to deal with. And I write all my lyrics on pen and paper. I don't ever write anything digitally because the crossing out process is so important to me. Writing something out and being willing to, the term kill your darlings, the idea of taking a whole line that I thought was good a minute ago and then realizing it doesn't work and then crossing it out entirely so it's gone. There's a visual representation of it being gone so I can keep going. And then I come back in and here's the song, and I tell everybody here's the song, and I'll explain what my perspective is as a writer and why I said these things. And generally speaking, I've been very lucky that the band agrees with me on that. And Jinx, I believe it was, came up with the term talking to aliens, which is what they describe what I do when I leave and go and just sit on the ground somewhere, and then I come back in with a complete song. So that's
Question right down the middle.
Hello again.
Hi. By the way, just so everybody knows, you've really talked these questions up all day.
I have.
A couple times you've mentioned you have good questions, so.
I feel like I do.
All right.
First things first, Wretched and Divine. Oh my God. In Overture, why is it called Overture? It's not an overture, it's an interlude or an entr'acte, and it bothers me.
Right, I understand that.
It bothers me. And that's what I had to bring to you about that.
I'll have you know, we finally got it right with the current tour because we used the musical themes of the show beforehand like an overture. The reason it's called Overture is because it was meant to be an overture, but Universal Records did not want our record to start out with 4.5 minutes of orchestral music before a song starts, so I decided to place it in the middle so that you could have the themes that you've just heard and then the themes that'll move forward, and then when we'd already established it, we had to just keep fucking doing it. So I understand it's wrong.
Yes, it's wrong and it bothers me, but it is beautiful and I love it.
Think of it as the name of the song and not that it's an overture.
I know. It just, as a cellist, it bothers me.
Sure. As a non-cellist, it bothers me.
Well, I'm glad we're both bothered by it. And then in American Satan, why didn't you sing?
Remember we were talking about Universal Records? A lot of it comes back to contract stuff. When I first did the movie and the TV series, I was still under contract there. So, there was a little bit of a contract issue with my voice being used, and obviously Remington did an incredible job, so it all worked out, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
More questions right here.
So I'm bringing it back to the hot topic thing.
Bring it back.
Former assistant manager, I'm saying, you dodged a bullet by not working there. It's great, trust me, but the first time...
I couldn't fold right.
Oh, that takes forever, trust me.
Also, I had no retail experience, but if you don't have retail experience and you're trying to get your first retail job, how do you ever get retail experience?
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you what, it's a little easier to fold the shirts when you're well endowed. It works.
It's not going to happen for me, so...
But it's all good, trust me. It's a great place to work, but the first time a teenager comes in and asks who the hell Black Sabbath is, you die a little inside.
Oh.
So, but my question was, with the Trinity of Terror tour and everything going on with that, do you have any, fun story or something from the road with the guys and everything? I mean, there's got to be something.
I think one of the things that's really unique about Trinity of Terror, and one of the things that works the most, is that you've got 3 bands full of people who we all started around the same time. All 3 of our bands, we all kind of came up around the same time, and we're also all kind of at a place in our life where we're there to put on the best show possible and not be the biggest party animals possible. So as much as I'd love to tell you that there's crazy things going on, I think all of us are just there to entertain you more than anything. And so our interactions are very positive and fun, and lighthearted in the day, but it's mostly like, how's your life going and how's the day going, and not like, hey, let's fucking kill somebody, or you know what I mean, like. So no, I have no crazy stories. I'm just telling you the truth. Also, I go to bed like immediately when the show's over. I go directly to the bus and I eat my 1 brick of tofu and then I go to bed.
Question over on that side.
So, hi again.
Hi.
So, with American Satan, what was your least favorite and most favorite part of filming that movie?
My least favorite part was, and this is not meant to be a slight at all, but I was inexperienced in my ability to act against other people, and so I had learned the script backwards and forwards because I knew that I needed to have that. And then I went and started acting against people who, like Malcolm McDowell, took the script as a suggestion often, and not so much, that's pretty often the case with older actors, especially who are really experienced. He knew things about his character and how to do it that I didn't know because I was basing everything on the text. So it was very hard for me to adapt. My experience of acting was being in like school plays where you're just reading everything off of the script and your cues are based on that. Well, now I'm doing a scene where I have to be really emotional with a person who is not giving me the cues that I remember in my head, but is still saying things that are accurate to the scene. And so learning how to quickly move myself from somebody who's just saying lines into being the character. So I'm not going to say it was my least favorite part because ultimately it ended up being something that was really important, but it was the hardest thing for me to learn as somebody who didn't have a lot of experience, was how to be present with someone who's creating a character as opposed to saying lines that you're supposed to say. And my favorite part was probably the same, just learning people like Mark Boone Jr. and just learning the craft as somebody who was, I always say, the bar was set so low for me on that. Like, I'll never have a job in the rest of my life where the fact that I came onto set and knew all my lines was like a mini celebration for the crew. They're like, oh, fuck, thank God. So the fact that I was able to be welcomed into that and then learn so much on the fly, and then I would say, still to this day, the friendship, because Ben and I didn't really know each other that well. Ben Bruce from Asking Alexandria. We were friendly, but we didn't know each other that well. And Ben and John Bradley West, who plays what's his character's name in the movie? Ricky. Yeah, he's not in the show. I always just call him John because I've been friends with him now for years. But the friendship that we developed because of that, I still talk to John weekly, and so having that friendship was huge.
Okay, another question down front.
With touring, do you ever get like tired of the other band members or the crew, or like annoyed with them being around them 24/7 on tour?
I mean, I think it's human nature to become annoyed by things, but I don't think, I'll say this. There was a time in my life where there was certain issues that were occurring in the band that made me really mad all the time. That's no longer the case. So, where we are at now is really fun. We get along really well. We just did a tour in Europe where I didn't realize how much fun we could have together as friends. So we've been doing this for a long fucking time, and it's hard work when you're working together all the time and you're living together all the time. And in the last 2 years especially, we have grown so much closer, not as work brothers who are like family, but real friends and laughing with each other and having a good time. So we've really been enjoying each other's company. But yeah, I mean, look, the truth of touring is the show is really the only glamorous part. The rest of it is exhausting. So when you're exhausted all the time, you can get annoyed. But I've been very lucky that we all get along. We really do. I know a lot of bands that's not the case. So I feel very fortunate that we genuinely like each other. Yeah, I mean, one big hangout to a certain degree, but the other truth is that we now all have our own lives. So that you hang out and then, you're dealing with stuff. You're at work. So that's not to say, I'm not trying to make it sound like some like hardship, but you also need time to, Jinx has a child. He needs time to be able to go talk to his wife about what's going on at home or those kind of things. My wife tours too, so we're linking up our schedules to be able to have time to talk throughout the day. home life and the reality and the importance of what you're doing in your life also takes a huge level of work and precedence in the time. So I wouldn't say we're just like going fucking nuts all the time, but we do enjoy each other's company and have a good time on the road.
Okay, let's get a few more questions.
Hi, do you ever get back to Cincinnati? And do you go on your time off? Do you go to concerts? Because I know in Pittsburgh this weekend, Billy Joel last night, Motley Crue tonight, Metallica Sunday. Would you go to other concerts if you could?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I tend to, because we play so many shows, I tend to see the bands I want to see at festivals that we're playing. So, this year I saw Kiss and Metallica and all these bands because we play these festivals. I got to get off stage and then walk around the barricade and watch Social Distortion, which is one of my favorite bands of all time, play. So that's a huge perk of my job, is that I get to already be at these places. But by and large, we're on the road so much that I know if there's a band I want to see, I probably will anyway. So I haven't been to a show. There was one show that I nearly went to recently. It was Alkaline Trio and Bad Religion, but I was just too tired. I got home from tour the night of, and I was like, I'm not fucking going out. And I go back to Cincinnati all the time.
Question right here.
Hey, Andy.
Hi.
I was curious about your writing. They Don't Need to Understand in the graphic novel you did, The Ghost of Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Were those projects that someone prompted you to do, or was it your idea to sit down and write, or is this just another creative avenue you were exploring?
The graphic novel came from a painting that I did. I often draw and paint in the house, and I made this character that ultimately was the Ghost of Ohio character, and that was it. The basis was a painting of this character, and then I wrote the story around what it was, and then I went to Josh Bernstein, who's a friend of mine, who's a comic publisher who works at Z2, and I pitched, here's this comic book idea that I have. So that's how that happened. When it comes to the book, it actually was kind of the other way around. I was in the car one day, and I got a call from my manager and said, hey, this publishing company wants to know if you want to do a book. And I said, yeah, that would be great. And then we got through the process, and unfortunately, that publishing company didn't really want me to write the book. They wanted me to put my name on a book that somebody else, a ghostwriter, would write. And I didn't really want to do that, so I said, okay, well, we'll give it a shot. I did it for about 2 weeks, and I just didn't like the process. It didn't sound like me. I wasn't saying the things I really wanted to say. I didn't want to release something that wasn't really me. But I also knew that it would be very difficult for me to write a full-fledged book while on the road all the time and get it out in a timely fashion. So coincidentally for me, one of my best friends in the world, Ryan Downey, happens to be someone who's been interviewing me for 10 years and has all of this collection of material from me talking about my career from the time I was first coming up to when we started the book. And so I hit him up and said, well, why don't we mine all this stuff and we can use it as prompts, and we'll get together and look at these interviews, and we can track where I'm at in my life at the time. I can write stories. I can send them to you. You can take things that I've already written and place them. You can take the things I've told you and put them together. And what we did was really collaborate together on taking all of my various thoughts and things that I had said to him, whether in interviews or just sitting at lunch over the course of years. And then I would send him stuff that I'd write in my phone or whatever. And we really were able to put together something that was truly from my mind, as opposed to some ghostwriter writing the book.
Question in the back. Let's do a few more.
Going back to touring.
I like your glasses, by the way. If you can't see, they say ass.
Exactly. Going back to the touring, what was your especially going around the world? What was your favorite place that you would have to say?
Every place has different merits. There's shows that are better in some places than others. There's hotels that are better in some places than others. But the truth is, what you learn when you're going around the world and you're in a band, you find so many of the similarities that people have around the world, and you start to see so much less of the separation that kind of exists when you fly into a country and everything's in a different language and it freaks you out, but then you go play the show, and I'm singing a song that I wrote sitting outside of some studio, and everybody's singing the same words, so you end up kind of in this, I don't want to say homogenized, but really things become, there's a level of connection, not sameness, but connection globally. Having said that, it can be very hard, especially when you're young, to adapt to changes in the world. And I think I didn't necessarily understand how little I knew about the rest of the world until I started touring, and how hard it can be to be 19 years old in a different country and trying to figure out how to order a fucking sandwich or whatever, you know what I mean? So it is always fun to play overseas, but for us, the ability to be able to have the, closer to home, our families come to the shows, all that stuff. So we really do like being in the States, but I would say it would be very hard for me to pick a country because whether it's England or Germany or Australia or Mexico, whatever it is, we've had such amazing experiences in all of them that I'm not trying to cop out and not answer it, but it's really true that every place has its merits.
Okay, let's get 3 more questions. First you.
Hello. You're back
So-
again.
Yes, I am back. Third time? Third time?
Is it third
Yeah,
time?
Third time, yeah.
Do you get some sort of hat or something for that? Or can we have a hat for him?
Yeah.
No.
I'll take your water bottle. I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
I didn't even touch it, so I mean, it's really. It's only theoretically my water bottle.
More of a niche category. So whenever you were doing marketing for the Ghost of Ohio, you had this phone number
Yeah.
that you had your voice
Yeah.
giving monologues that was giving context to the story of the album
Yeah.
of the Ghost of Ohio. What brought you to make that phone line and give those monologues?
That was actually I just mentioned that I wrote a pitch for the book. That was just me reading the pitch. That was the email that I sent to the comic book publisher was, this is what the story is. So there was no real way for anybody to ever hear that directly. So we cut it in half, and the first part is part that's in the opener of the record, and then the other part is what I was reading on that thing. So we just came up with, well, how do we get this out in the world? And when I was a teenager, AFI had a song on December Underground that had a phone number in it. I think it was Summer Shutter, and all you could hear, it was a dial tone, because in those days, obviously, you could dial tone. There were different noises for different numbers. So you had to try to figure out what this was and call this number, and then you'd get some bonus hidden song. And so I kind of took my cue from that, and I was like, let's do a fucking phone number people can call and hear this little bit of me reading something.
Okay, question right here again.
I have 2 questions.
All right.
What is your favorite Batman movie, and what was the first band you ever listened to?
My favorite Batman movie is Batman Returns, and the first band I ever listened to was probably my dad's band. I don't know. Let's go Kiss. We'll say Kiss.
And question here.
Hi, I have a 2-part question also. With the American Satan and Paradise City, who was your favorite person to work with? 'Cause there was a lot of different celebrities. And why did they change the actress who played Lily? I mean, I watched them backwards. So I watched Paradise with Bella and then the other actress in American Satan.
Jesse.
I would prefer Bella to have been both, but
Okay.
why did they switch?
I don't know the inner workings of that because I'm just an actor in the show, but I do know that Jesse has transitioned, so maybe that has something to do with it. I'm not trying to say that is true of the situation, but Jesse's wonderful and a really wonderful person and a great person to work with. So I wouldn't dare to know why that happened. I just know that I was told, okay, Bella's doing this. So she was wonderful as well. I'd never met her before, but she's really so incredibly talented. The first scene that we did together was the one where I'm singing at her in the studio, and I was just so blown away by it. She was crying and everything. It was just so incredible. So, but I would say the number one person that has been throughout the whole thing, whether that was the movie or the show, Mark Boone Jr., who plays Elias, my label head, he took me under his wing and taught me so much, and is so kind and such a just such a veteran. As a fan of his, whether it's Sons of Anarchy or whatever it is, Mandalorian, so many things he's been on. The opportunity to learn from him was just massive for me.
And just 2 more questions. One here.
Okay.
Hi, Andy. I was just wondering, out of all of the songs you've written, what was the most emotionally cathartic? Maybe you even find it hard to listen to. Which song would you say that is?
I would say it used to be, and still is to a large degree, a song called When They Call My Name. It was a very difficult time in my life. I was really not doing well, and I was relying so heavily on my wife, Julia, just being there, and she was such a source of just being able to listen to me as I would just unload how upset I was about the state of my life and what was happening within the band and just not feeling well at all. And so to be able to write a song for her, this is when I'm in these places, the fact that I need you to be there, and the fact that you're there for me is so important. That was really important to me. And then there's a song that I wrote last year, the lyrics for, and should hopefully be released pretty soon. That's really about the struggle that I have more than anything else with. I have been put in a position from the time I was very young. I don't know how old you are. Okay, so I started the band a year before. I started when I was 16. From that time on, I was in a position where I was trying so hard to talk to people about things that mattered to me, and I was very lucky. People around my age felt it and felt like what I was saying mattered and put me in this place over the course of years. By the time I'm 19 years old, I have a major label record deal, I'm on tour, all these people are supporting me, people are wearing the shirts, all that stuff. But what came with that was a responsibility that I felt to make sure that what I was doing and saying was adequate for what people had given me. And over the years, I've tried my best, certainly more recently, to really respect and understand the incredible thing that I've been given. The other side of that, unfortunately, is that I'm just a guy, I'm completely fallible, and I'm trying my best, and sometimes it can be very difficult when the expectation that's placed on you is that everything you ever do and say is going to be criticized or is wrong in some way, and all you're really doing is just trying to entertain people. I have tried to be really clear over the course of my career that there's nothing about me that's remarkable. Nothing that I do is something that you couldn't do. You know what I mean? And because of that, the goal is to be able to entertain people through the gift that you've given me, but that also doesn't mean that I know what the fuck I'm doing all the time. So the expectation that kind of waffles back and forth. So I wanted to write a song about how hard I'm trying to do everything that I can, and also I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. You know what I mean? So there's a song that I put together lyrically that I think it's coming out that I hope resonates with people, but you haven't heard it yet, so that was a long speech about a song you've never heard. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And
now I'm going to drink this water, by the way, so it's going to go up in value now, is that?
And we got time for one last question.
Hi, Andy.
Hello.
I just wanted to know, you as young Andy, growing up in Cincinnati.
Yes.
And watching your dad's band.
Yeah.
Did you ever think, if I could only get my thoughts, my feelings, my ideas out there, that it would touch so many people? Or was you just totally blown away by all the young people, even older people, that you have connected with?
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell my daughter, stand up for yourself. Don't worry what other people think.
Yeah.
But she hears your song and a light bulb comes on.
Yeah.
I mean, did you ever think in your wildest dreams you could do that? And I want to thank you for doing that, because you've really helped my daughter.
Thank you.
I want to thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think I always wanted, and I hope if there's one lasting legacy of the band with giant hair that wore makeup and all that stuff, you know what I mean? If there's one lasting legacy that exists, my biggest hope is that whatever I did and said taught or helped people to feel the idea that nothing outside of what you feel about yourself is important. And if you don't feel the things I don't want to say you should, but if you don't lift yourself up, if you are not internally allowing yourself the opportunity to be your biggest fan, then you're making a grave mistake, because you have to be the one who is willing to lift yourself up. Nothing that I say in a song is going to save anybody. Something that I say in a song might influence you to save yourself, because you go, you know what? I don't feel that way, or that you're right. I want to be inspired by that, or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I'm a guy who writes rock songs, right? Like that's not critically important to someone's life. But if some element of the music inspires you in some way to light a fire, then it becomes an element of who you are in your life. Like all the things that inspired me growing up, they're bits and pieces of the tapestry that help me guard myself against the world. The cloak that I've made to protect myself. The Andy mask when I'm on stage, whatever you want to call it. So I don't know that I thought that in such specific terms as a kid, but I knew that I just wanted to feel like I wasn't alone, and I wanted to have other people, I wanted to know if other people felt that way. I wanted to know if other people felt like something that we all felt internally was bigger than what other people could picture, and that the derision from other people for aesthetic choices or musical interest choices was unfounded, and that we could find strength within ourselves. So again, if something that I do and say inspires somebody to pick themselves up and move on in their life, then that to me would be the biggest way of fulfilling the dream I had as a kid.
Thank you. And stand up, Andy Black.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for doing this. He'll be hanging out at his table tomorrow. He goes down the line. There you go. Back. And there we go. There it is, Andy Black. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, this is Aaron Ashmore, and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe like now. Oh, and have fun and follow your fandom.